Hello.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy to yourself, comrade. How you doing? Nice mic.
I am doing well, and thank you. I was actually kind of concerned because this is my laptop's built-in mic and thought it might be.
It sounds surprisingly good for a built-in microphone. In fact, I don't think I've ever actually heard a better built-in mic.
Hooray. I picked the right thing for once.
Now, it's it's no my microphone, of course, but you still
Oh,
sound
yes. Well, not
quite
all of us
nice.
are streamers and pay doodles of money to talk to people on the internet.
Hey, listen, we can all get there one day, okay? Don't be down on
Uh,
yourself.
that, that's the dream.
Why don't you introduce yourself to the stream?
All right, yes. Hello, stream. My name is Peyton Downing. I am a journalism student at the University of Iowa, and I am currently working on a paper talking about how the internet is changing journalistic principles. And I spoke with my professor, and he thought that talking about live streams and the effects that they have would be a very interesting take. So here I am.
Beautiful. Yeah, have you ever been told that Peyton Downing is an extraordinarily powerful name? You sound like you've come from a movie.
Wow, no, that is a great compliment and one I will wear for on the day until I die.
All right, hell yeah. Hit me up, comrade, please. No questions hold barred. I remember you saying specifically there were some questions um, you asked me if I would rather you not ask. I am an open book, comrade. Hit me,
All
destroy
right,
me.
all right. Sick. So, first of all, why the hell are you here? Why live stream? Why post your stuff on YouTube? Why not, write articles or do prepared content? Why live streaming in specific?
At the end of the day, I can make post hoc justifications for it, but all of us are driven fundamentally by what brings us the most joy. I've been a fan of live stream culture for as long as live streaming has existed. Back during the early days of Justin TV, back when only the extremely technologically proficient were even capable of live streaming, I was there watching those streams. I just liked it. It was just a fun medium for me. And as I grew older, I began to idealize the lifestyle surrounding streaming. The idea of being able to get your thoughts out instantly, the idea of your immediate rhetorical abilities being more important than your ability to refine them in a post speaking sense, the way you would with prepared content. I really liked the lifestyle, and I, through an extraordinary turn of luck, I am now currently living it. Very happy with that. Couldn't possibly complain.
All right, and going off that, how did you, start this up? Going from, just some dude who, watched Destiny to having over 600 concurrent viewers listening to your opinion.
One quick tip to you: hold the push to talk button maybe half a second later than you currently are, because the mic cutoff is happening like the last syllable of whatever word you're speaking.
Understood.
Gotcha. In regards to how I became a streamer, the process was pretty quick and simple, actually. I had been known for occasionally appearing on Destiny's stream to debate him. It had only happened, God, at most maybe 10 times, which is a fair number of times, but this isn't like an ongoing guest stream sort of segment. But a few of the discussions we had had were pretty good, and they were made into YouTube videos. A little while after Hassan Piker of the Young Turks, Chink's nephew's uncle's nephew, began to stream on Twitch TV. He became friends with Destiny and watched over a few of Destiny's old debate videos, including one in which he spoke with me. He liked the video and invited me on to speak with him. And I got, after that conversation, a pretty strong flood of positive support that encouraged me to make my own YouTube channel. The first few videos I did were prepared content, but after that I decided to try my luck out with streaming, and since then things have just gradually picked up. The most I ever got on Twitch was maybe 400 or so concurrent viewers, and after I switched to YouTube, very voluntarily, things have picked up substantially.
Mhm. And going off of, starting not just, how did you do it? What was like the initial investment? How hard was it for you to get started?
The initial investment was taken care of by a fan. I had no way of starting a channel because I had no money to spare at all. and I had no microphone. My laptop mic was woefully not your primo laptop mic, mind you. This is a highly subpar laptop mic. It wasn't. I couldn't make videos with it or really even do debates. However, someone on Reddit very generously ordered for me a $120 microphone, the Blue Yeti microphone, which I think is a pretty standard sort of industry starter for hobbyists and professionals alike. I got it, and I was able with it to start making my first videos. A little while after that, a viewer of mine donated $50 for me to get a webcam. And with those two investments taken care of, after that, things pretty much spiraled into their own, into self-sustaining.
All right. And sort of going off into the self-sustaining aspect, do you mind my asking how stable is your income with streaming? Because it doesn't seem like it's a particularly reliable source of income.
Oh no, it's not even slightly reliable. It's actually quite nerve-wracking. Self-employment is and always has been a fairly. I just know this from what I know from my father's days doing self-employment work. Self-employment is and always have been very stressful, particularly in this country with its weak social safety net. I make a decent amount of money as I stand now, and when I make that money, I'm happy. But I recognize that there are a myriad factors out there that could instantly lead to a huge downturn in my finances, which might be so substantial I would have to stop doing this and go out there and try to get a proper wage job. Um, I'm trying to diversify the income sources that I have to ensure that doesn't happen, but it's always a fear in the back of my mind, which is one of the reasons why I, even with my current income, am so spendthrift. I try to save as much money as I can.
Mhm. So, with any sort of accident or income, if something were to happen, would you have to give up streaming temporarily, or would the dream just be done?
I think at this point I have enough of an audience that I could probably say it would be a temporary retreat from streaming. I'm reasonably confident at this point that unless I do something, unless the logs get leaked, I'm reasonably sure that my public support is going to remain substantial enough that I can always rely on some kind of public advocacy to bring in some form of income. Whether or not that can always be my primary source of income, I'm not entirely sure. I would like it to be. I think that the income I receive is proportional to the amount of content I produce and the amount of people whose lives I enrich, or at least attempt to enrich. So I think that people on the whole are getting a decent bargain. That's one of the things I also like about live streaming, with a television program or with a TV show or something, you're talking about an enormous upfront investment, and then afterwards you hope you make the ratings. Whereas in my case, I know how many people I reach, I know who enjoys my content, and I know what I'm compensated for every single day I do my work. It's a much more direct process that I feel more comfortable attaching my work to.
All right, hmm. So, sorry, I'm just trying to organize my thoughts.
Of course.
So, talking about your content, what exactly is your driving philosophy when selecting what to cover and who to talk to?
More than anything else, my job is to be entertaining. I think a lot of people forget that. There is no point whatsoever in producing any sort of content unless you're talking at the high academic level, unless you are willing to make it entertaining to people. People are busy, people are tired. People do not have the time to consume media which is not interesting to them. There are some people out there who are willing to consume long video essays that are deeply academic and don't have a highly theatrical or entertaining content to them. Most people are not like that. And I recognize that, so I try to be entertaining first and foremost. Secondly, I do everything in my power to advocate for principles which I believe to be ethical, and moreover, to provide arguments which I believe can help the average person not only understand leftism and move towards leftism, but defeat non-leftist arguments should they encounter them in their personal lives. I'm more concerned not with my advocacy, but with the potential advocacy my fans might be able to engage in after I stop doing this, or while I'm doing this.
And that's definitely one thing I've seen through your content is that personally, I haven't seen anyone else talk more so about rhetoric and how to present the ideas in your videos as well as just the ideas in those videos. So, what gave you that first and foremost, that idea to say, hey, it's not just enough to say these things. I need to teach people how to say these things.
I was just really disappointed with the state of discourse on the internet. It's no secret that I'm a Destiny fan. Destiny back in 2016, 2017, 2018 was making just an absolute fool of many of the conservatives and skeptics in the YouTube community. And that was all very fun and entertaining and stuff. But I grew worried as I watched it that while people were delighted by Destiny's rhetorical performance, um, sure, as should we all, and that's great. They weren't really learning anything from it. We weren't really learning how to move forward. And that ultimately is the goal. It's fine and dandy to see one YouTuber have a grand old time smacking down a few dipshits who, make their money off of YouTube. But what's far more important than that is trying to build a system where the people who watch you, which is in Destiny's case, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people, far fewer in my case, but still, who are themselves capable of replicating those arguments. And then the people who hear those arguments are potentially capable of going forward. It's that cascading process, the fountain with one bowl upturned into another, that makes political advocacy so effective. I can't tell you how happy it makes me when I receive an email for somebody telling me that not only did I move them further to the left, but the arguments that I've given in my streams help them move a family member or a friend over to the left. That process is how we win.
Mm-hmm. Moving on from that, outreach, what exactly is your plan for going on and, expanding the stream? Because I know you've been talking about maybe doing more gaming streams. You also have your D&D campaign that you've started. Why expand in those directions?
The D&D campaign is just because I have friends, and I thought it would be fun to do a public D&D campaign with them. If I hadn't done a public D&D campaign with them, I might as well have done a private one. At least doing it publicly, there's a little more fun audience engagement. Though I have to say, I did dramatically underestimate exactly how much time it takes to prepare for a public D&D campaign. It's actually quite extraordinary how much time and effort it takes just to get the art assets together to make sure things are planned appropriately. There's less room, I think, for error when it's done publicly, so that's a little whew. But in regards to the video game streams, that's a personal thing. Even in my video game streams, I'm talking about politics nonstop. I mean, the subjects never really relent. I'm never just talking about the video game. I love politics. I'll never stop talking about politics. I've been like this since high school at least. A lot of it is about harm reduction and about maintaining a consistency in the community. Most people who watch my streams do so because they like my political opinions. Great, wonderful, cool. I'm glad that that's how we engage. But some people watch my streams because they like me, which is, of course, quite flattering. And for those people, for the people who like my, in a not too parasocial a sense at least, my company, my presence regardless of the subject that's being discussed, I think those video game streams are a good way to build a core, tight community base that is replete with people who not only share my opinions, but are also personally dedicated to forming sort of a stronger, tight-knit, emotionally healthy community. Politics is tiring, and oftentimes, especially if you're a leftist, politics is quite demoralizing. It's important to have those moments, those periods of time where you can relax, where you can feel a little more comfortable, not feel the weight of the world pressing down on the back of your neck.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sorry if I'm just using filler words. Again, I'm just trying to make sure there's not some random bouts of dead silence.
No, not at all.
Kind of going off topic here, but what exactly is your philosophy in at least the approach to social media? Because I know you're on Twitter at least a decent amount. What exactly do you hope to accomplish with your outreach there? Is it more so just personal, haha, this is me, or does the advocacy never stop?
The advocacy never stops. Everything that I do publicly is a tool for me to try and build the greatest possible following. I don't think that I'm the kind of person who will compromise on my positions ideologically. I just don't think I'm that sort of person. I've never really felt an urge to stop believing or saying something that I believe in just because I believe it'll make me more popular. So in lieu of any possibility of me selling out, I want to get the greatest possible following at any expense imaginable. Because doing so is, again, how we win. The more people who follow me, the greater a possibility of me changing a person's mind, the more good I can do for the world. I also, frankly, I like the popularity. I do enjoy it quite a bit, as unbelievably stressful as it can be sometimes. And I really cannot overstate how stressful it is to be able, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, see metrics by which you can track your popularity. This is probably a mentality thing that I have yet to get past because I haven't been doing this for super long. But when you, for example, put out a video or put out a tweet and the amount of immediate views or likes or retweets or whatever that it gets is rather low, it's very difficult to not imagine that as a condemnation of the sort of content that you produce. Like, oh God, have I lost it? Have I lost the magic? And of course, no, things are variable. There are ups and downs, and that's how it's been for everyone, even the most popular content creators. But it's a stressful process. But regardless of the stress, I'm willing to put myself forward in whatever way it maximizes the outreach.
Mhm. And going off of putting yourself forward in a certain sense, how exactly do you try to market yourself? Because I know you've talked again in the past about how you try to present like hyper masculine, but also very leftist.
Yeah, one of the problems that I have with general leftist advocacy, especially on YouTube in specific, is that leftist advocacy here is very gay. I don't mean that hyperbolically. It is. It's very queer. The bisexual lighting meme is a meme for a reason. Most of the left-leaning content creators on this site are, well, I'm not saying they're all trans or gender nonconforming or anything, but they don't conform to traditional expectations of gender roles, particularly when regards to masculinity. I would say there are traditionally feminine YouTube content creators who are leftist. I can name quite a few, I think. But in regards to masculinity, this isn't really the case. And one of the reasons for this is because traditional masculinity is, well, in the same way as traditional femininity, it's a subject of a great deal of criticism amongst leftists in, academia and general advocacy alike, for a wide variety of very legitimate reasons. But the aesthetic of traditional masculinity, being large, deep-voiced, strong, bearded, physically imposing, confident, domineering, these are things which are not necessarily in a vacuum bad. There's nothing wrong with any of those characteristics. Maybe you can be rude when you're domineering, of course. There's ways to do it wrong, but there's nothing intrinsically wrong with these principles. And I found a lot of right-leaning people are unwilling to hear messages that they might otherwise be receptive to if it's coming to them from people who they don't intrinsically respect. This is something that people have to remember when it comes to advocacy. For most people, they are always looking for an excuse to not take you seriously. They will do anything they can, looking at your appearance, the way you speak, the way you present yourself, to imagine some characteristic that allows them to disregard your words. The less of those you provide them, the easier it is to get through to them, which is one of the reasons why if you go to, say, for example, any right-leaning forums responses to H. Bomber Guy, who is, well, he produces wonderful content, and God bless me, that pathologic video was brilliant, probably doesn't conform to traditional masculine expectations. Most of the comments are going to be on his appearance, his femininity, his lack of masculinity, something about soy. He plays it up, but it's an aspect of left advocacy that we're genuinely missing. Apart from the masculine element, I also think there are a dearth of leftists who are capable of holding their own in live debate or immediately responding to content. It's very easy to do reactionary content. You just load up an article that says something that if you're very stupid, you can misinterpret it into say something silly. Well, we can go for the subject of that video Sean did on Sargon of Akkad a little while ago, for example. The article on how the fact that Siri and other spoken voice AIs on your phone don't respond well to domestic violence is a problem Apple has to address. And Sargon of Akkad, how is this a problem? This is so stupid. Who cares? It's very easy to do that sort of content. You just dismiss anything you don't understand. Our job is much harder, which is why I understand we don't do this as often, but I think it's important we do it nonetheless.
Taking a step back from the Sean back to the presenting, how exactly then would you suggest people who don't conform to gender roles or other social expectations, should they just not bother with trying to convince these people who will dismiss them with a hand wave, or How would you approach that?
No, I think they do wonderful work. I think the fact that ContraPoints has managed to see so much success and so much respect across the aisle, at least in some circles, despite her being trans, which is, in the eyes of a reactionary, perhaps one of the most disgusting things it's possible for a human being to be, is a testament to the fact that if you present your content well, you can get through to people in spite of whatever demographic characteristics allow them to normally dismiss you. If you're not the type of person who is easily capable of reaching out towards reactionaries or conservatives or what have you, that's fine. Your content is still very, very legitimate. Just recognize the limitations of what you're able to produce if those audiences are not something that you are trying to go after. I think that people should be very aware of who exactly they're trying to target and the limitations of those. Of that outreach. There are groups, for example, that I don't think that I'm very good at or capable of targeting. So I generally try not to, because it's not only unproductive, it's uninteresting to me.
Sorry, I'm accidentally tapped out of my questions.
No worries, comrade.
Going back to the when you were talking about analytics, so how you've gone on Social Blade, you've reviewed it over the stream once or twice, but how much do analytics change what kind of content you talk about? Do you like review a bad video, or not a bad video, but just one that didn't receive as many views and go, oh, well, I guess I'm just not going to talk about stuff related to that anymore? Or do you just keep going on after that?
Yeah, no, you can learn a lot from analytics, an enormous amount, in fact. One of the most important lessons I learned happened about 2 months ago while reviewing those analytics, looking at which videos succeeded, which videos did not succeed. I think the idea that I've come to is this. For the most part, people want poppy, clickbaity content. I don't think that's a particularly revelatory piece of information for me. I think most people know that. But the trick is pushing it's containing information which is useful and educational within the purview of that content. So for example, if I want to do a video on, say, incels, no matter what I do or what I say, how I frame that video, it's already going to get attention. Everyone's delighted by the incel, circus craze. What are we doing? This is very interesting. Oh God, how strange. But when it comes to other topics, like, say, for example, rent control, or the falling rate of profit, or these other things that don't necessarily have this big push, you have to find a way to package them in something else people find more interesting. Like, say, for example, a video response. That's one. That's an easy one. Or packaging it in with some recent piece of news. That's the two things people really, really respond to: breaking news and sensational content. And between those two, I think if I can package the interesting subjects in with those, I can come out on top. This is one of the reasons why I'm trying to distance myself a little bit, or at least engage less with the academics who will come on my stream to discuss, with a few possible exceptions. Not because their content isn't interesting and fascinating and incredibly informative to me, and to many of my viewers, but to a broader audience, no. Some video, PhD discussing the viability of an anarchist society defending itself militarily. This is wonderful content, and the farther left people in my audience probably appreciate it very much, and I'm happy to provide it to them. But I recognize that those things have to be deviations from an otherwise consistent content production machine.
It sounds like you're reaching the same sort of issue that has happened in news media, since time immemorial with, there are big scientific breakthroughs or just studies that get washed away by just whatever the most breaking random piece of news is.
Mm-hmm. But that's just how life is. There's no sense complaining about it. The best you can do is manage that system as it exists. But that system of sensationalism and breaking news and appealing specifically to those two interests, that's going to be the case as long as social media exists. That's going to be the norm. There's no community that can escape that. Even the purported academics who occasionally, slither on into my communities. I've seen them. They take a great deal of pleasure from watching the debate videos, the reactionary video responses. Everyone succumbs to this process. It's just about how you manage it. You can manage it irresponsibly and do what the mainstream media does, which is where they capitulate entirely to it with no goal other than to make money, and they do nothing to promote interesting or useful content in that sensationalized media format. Or you can try to do what I do, which is use it as effectively as possible without compromising the underlying messages that make your channel what it is. I try my best to be responsible, but, we all want to get those analytics up.
Yeah, yeah. Analytics are key to expanding. So, beyond just you and Hyena, is there anyone else working behind the scenes, or is it just the team of you two at the?
Yeah, White Nervosa. White Nervosa is my systems administrator. She manages my website, and I have her on I pay her as well, though probably not enough for her incredible services. If it weren't for her, then very much of what I do would not be possible. For example, now that I'm exiled to YouTube, YouTube chat is garbage. Sorry to all of you in YouTube. It's not just your fault. It's the chat system itself. It's horrible. Having a website chat that I can look through and a community I can cultivate there is absolutely essential to the work I do. Oh, true. I should clarify. And to less consistent people I work with, Thermia is my YouTube editor, who I pay to occasionally edit videos, which I'm not capable of doing, like the DNC debate highlights. And Derry Cipher is a strong memer and longtime compatriot who occasionally provides services, especially in regards to media production and art asset production. And I've occasionally paid them as well. Those are the people who I think are in every way, shape, and form responsible for the production of my content.
Mhm. And where would you like to see yourself in the future beyond just having an even bigger audience? Is there any specific kind of content you want to touch on, like any expansions of like stream topics? Where exactly is your goal for the?
I mean, I want to expand to the greatest extent possible on this platform and whatever streaming platforms may become viable in the future. I don't have any goals to turn this, at least not within the purview of my streaming, into some kind of professional outlet. I am not, in my stream format, a very professional person. I am actually quite unprofessional in the sense that I go into topics that most would feel uncomfortable with in a syndicated published setting, and I swear quite a bit, and I'm not particularly good at staying on topic. All of these things put together make it extremely unlikely that I'm ever going to be able to pull out some kind of like show segment from this, which I'm perfectly fine with. I like this. This work is fun for me. Doing this, but getting bigger, would be a satisfying a way of extrapolating the content as I've produced now. I would be happy with that arc. Of course, the larger I get, the better ultimately. But there's a limit to how large you can realistically get on this platform. At the end of the day, being a streamer is just that, being a streamer. The extent to which I can affect the opinions of your average, Joe Normie is pretty limited. I would be interested in the future of seeing if there's any way I can extend my reach to people who aren't internet savvy enough to go checking out YouTube content, YouTube streams and streamed video segments. But I'm not sure how I would do that, at least not yet. Streaming is getting huge, though. It's possible that as time goes on, there are going to be larger corporations that start setting up syndicated, like, streaming unions where they bring on people for occasional content segments. Being able to get my mouth on one of those might be a good idea.
Mhm. That is definitely something that my professor has talked about, a decent amount of times. There's actually one group in particular that we went over in a class called the Online Performers Group, which is just like a bunch of either just miscellaneous content producers who are all just grouped together, and it functions sort of like a union, to my knowledge, in that they ensure that they get fair sponsorships, they have vacation days, they have help planning, they help review analytics, that sort of stuff.
Right. It's difficult to say where the future of this medium is going to go. Live streaming is relatively new. It's taking off extremely quickly. In just a few years' time, we've gone from live streaming being something that was done pretty much exclusively on Twitch and a few other platforms. Nobody cared about it too much. It was mostly a video game thing. And now, I mean, uh, essentially like every form of media can be, you can find it live streaming on some site or another. Corporations are making like big deals with television producers to get their shows aired on platform A or platform B. There's a lot of potential in this future for things to pop off, so hopefully I can take advantage of that.
Hmm. And at least in your opinion, what makes you think that live streaming is this sort of not just like newfound thing, but like why is it good? Why are people going to this as opposed to some other media?
It's a product of the atomization of the social life under a capitalist system. As people grow more and more alienated from their peers, from their coworkers, from their family members, from their friends, as we grow lonely in our lives, we turn towards forms of media that compensate for that loneliness. There is no form of media more capable of doing this than live streaming. For the people who are watching this right now, I mean, I might as well be in the next room. I'm right there. I can see what they say. They can see what I say. I can speak with them directly. It's as close a form of media as you can get to having an actual IRL friend. And I think that as people grow lonelier, this form of media is going to be far, far more popular. Mind you, there are benefits to it beyond that as well. Just being able to instantly produce cheap content that can be disseminated to a large number of people, even without the atomization of the social life under capitalism. This is still an extremely powerful media format. I expect it to only get more so as time goes on. It also replaces a lot of the extremely and comparatively bulky instant media production formats to which we were previously accustomed. I mean, just think, 20 years ago, the functional equivalent of live streaming was a live television broadcast where you had to physically transmit electrical signals across the airwaves. And now here we are, and not only does that process not require a gigantic studio and a dozen technicians to be working around the clock, but I, an average Joe, technologically speaking, can just do it and set it up in a minute in my bedroom. It's extraordinary. I'm amazed, actually, that we're even capable of like socially responding to the transformation of media production. That's so significant.
Yeah, it really is something just incredible to, consider because, our parents, they probably never would have dreamed of something like this. My mom can still remember when she didn't have Google and had to go to a library to crack open an encyclopedia to do research. And, now here we are, semi-professional streamer and me, an undergrad student talking a country away from one another.
Wait, where are you right now?
I am in Iowa.
Okay, yeah, good distance. Right, right, University of Iowa. Yeah, well, I'm largely happy with the changes that have been brought about, but I think there are ways in which they could have been implemented more responsibly. There's no denying that the internet has made people, at least in their physical lives, much more atomized, much more alienated, much lonelier, much more socially ostracized, much more aberrant. Hopefully, there are ways we can reconcile the power of the internet with the horrid social consequences it has wrought in the future.
Mhm. And just talking back on that, how would you make things, more responsible in a sense? What could these sort of platforms be doing to make it so that there's not as many, negative effects of, these atomizations or what have you, besides just banning Nazis?
I mean, there would have to be an extraordinary number of changes, both online and off. Online, we would need, for one, we would need the decentralization of the internet. We would truly need to break apart larger ISPs and relegate control over internet servers to smaller, perhaps even more local responsibilities. I think this would go a long way towards allowing people to make more democratic decisions concerning the types of content they want to see on any given portion of the internet. I don't believe that the government should really step in and moderate the internet. I think that providing it as a public utility is a good idea. Of course, I think access to the internet is a human right at this point. But in terms of directly managing the sorts of people on here, I'm not really comfortable with the government getting to decide which political ideologies are or are not acceptable. What I am in favor of, though, is an implementation of social processes and social conditions that make it less likely people are going to go ahead and get all axe crazy. Nazism and fascism and what have you are responses to that same social atomization under capitalism. Goodness, excuse me. Likewise, it seems likely to me that the relative level of racism and racial stigmatization that we see in the internet will grow less significant and less common as people are in their real lives more significantly integrated as work is done to bring modern social conveniences and technological conveniences to the Midwest and other areas of this country that have been pretty much left to rot over the past 40 years. In short, we need a political, social, and ecological transformation of this country. And if we're capable of doing those things, I think the health of the internet will follow suit. It's not going to happen for a very long time, if it happens at all. But every tiny step we take towards that process is a good one, and I think it should be celebrated.
Yeah, definitely. So just one final line of questioning. How exactly would you suggest, with your knowledge, looking back, how would you have someone set up their own content and get started, whether it be live streaming or prepared content? Because I don't mean to diminish you in any way, shape, or form, but you did get kind of lucky with, the fan investing in you, being on Destiny stream numerous times, as well as, getting platformed by Hassan.
Luck is my recommendation. At the end of the day, I'd love to delude myself with the idea that there's some consistent methodology by which somebody could arrive at what I have done, or even a smaller iteration of what I've done. But at the end of the day, it's simply not the case. Luck is an extraordinarily important component of that. I can say this, however, and perhaps this is a little bit. This can be an uplifting little anecdote. There was recently a video I watched. I'm going to try and find it right now. Here we go. This is a funny little case study in the whimsy of the internet. Look at this.
How does...
I don't know. Are you watching my stream right now?
I am. It is muted, and it's very bizarre to hear your voice 5 seconds before I see your mouth move.
That's reasonable. What you're looking at right now is a video, How Does Terraria Handle Thousands of Tiles, bitwise, from a YouTube channel called DigiDigger. Now, this is a cute little video. It was released in 2017, a little more than 2 years ago. And when I saw this video recommended to me on my feed, I took a look at it because I'm always interested in computational explanations of video games that I enjoy. What's interesting, however, is that if we go to the social blade of this channel, they had 1.5 thousand subscribers a week ago. At some point over the past week, the YouTube algorithm kicked into gear, and they now have more than 10 times as many subscribers as they did before. Their total video views a day went from in the hundreds to in the 100,000s. In a single day, for several days in a row, they gained more than 1,000 subscribers. Their videos went from having a few thousand views to two of them, the two best videos from that channel, having over 200,000. The YouTube algorithm just kicked them into gear. And that is the whimsy of the internet. They hadn't uploaded anything for those 2 years. They didn't do anything. They didn't promote themselves. No new videos were released. Nothing changed. In fact, if you go over here to the top comment from this video, wow, what happened? 2 years after I stopped posting, the YouTube algorithm comes along and now this. Thank you for all the kind comments. Not gonna lie, this really makes me want to make new content. YouTube and streaming and the internet in general are funny, funny things. It's no guarantee that any one of us is going to succeed online. There's no guarantee I'm even going to be online a year from now. But the guarantee I can provide is this, that if more left-leaning content creators go out there and attempt to make their own content, it is a mathematical guarantee that some of them are going to succeed. And in the long run, that matters far more than any individual's chance of success. If a person is interested in starting a few YouTube videos or starting a live stream or anything along those lines, do it. Put a little effort into it, chill, have fun with the project, and put it out there, and you get what you get. And even if things don't personally succeed for you, that's fine. I mean, plenty of people throughout history have invested more time and effort into hobby projects that didn't make them into money. But it's entirely possible you might end up changing a person's mind, or more people's minds, or actually have a successful YouTube channel. The only broad piece of advice I would recommend is find a niche that nobody else is doing as well as you think you can do, and then do it better than anyone else ever could. Make content that you enjoy, but that you think other people would enjoy too, and make it so well that you feel people would be willing to pay for it were you not providing it for free. If you can do all of those things, and not everyone can, then you have a decent recipe for probabilistic success.
Damn, that is a really good end note. All right, well, I'm tapped out of questions. Thank you so much for having me on and giving me your time.
I apologize for delaying so long. It was nothing personal, of course. I'm just a little flippant when it comes to responding to emails.
Oh no, of course, I completely and utterly understand. I've done the same myself. No worries.
Do you want to shout anything out in particular before heading off?
Yeah, just two things really. One is, of course, as you know, a burgeoning journalism student, I have a Twitter. I don't post much. I plan on changing that soon, but for the time being, it's mostly just me retweeting things. Although I may start posting dinosaur facts because those are really fun. And secondly, for those of you out there who may find yourselves on or near college campuses, there is a group called the Roosevelt Group, I believe. They are a progressive lobbyist organization, I suppose is the best way to phrase it. They have, clubs and groups all throughout college campuses across the US, and they do a lot of work coming up with policy ideas at the local, state, and national level. You have a bunch of people all working together to get these implemented. You get them sent off for review. They come back with refined policy reforms, and they give you suggestions as to how to lobby and implement those changes at the local, state, and national level. So if you want to get involved in at least some way, shape, or form, I highly suggest those guys.
Would you mind providing to me the link to your Twitter? Just DM it to me on Discord, and I'll drop it in the chat. What's your journalistic opinion on the UK election?
Oh God. I unfortunately have not paid too much attention to the UK election, but of course it's very unfortunate that Labour lost and that Conservatives had such a large landslide. And I think that it is a horrific affront to journalism when you have the Boris Johnson hiding in a fridge to avoid talking with someone. Like, the amount of things that went wrong there is just an affront to the entirety of the profession.
All right, folks, I'm dropping the Twitter in chat. You should like them. They're a degenerate. They've got fucking Nautilus, fucking League of Legends profile header, and their Discord icon is the Scottish bitch from the recent Pokemon. I know you all love that shit. Go eat it up. There you go.
Hoorah.
Of course,
I will be sure to post dinosaur facts later today.
In this respect, of course, I mean degeneracy in the nicest and most sincere, heartwarming possible way.
Oh, of course. I took absolutely no insult from that comment. And I am, in fact, happy to hear that you would label me as among one of your comrades.
Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you for speaking to me.
You as well. And again, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day, and I hope the stream goes well as well.
I do too. Bye. Well, that went better than I thought it would. Nice.